Smile 2 follows Sky Riley, a global pop sensation, as she's about to embark on a new world tour when she starts experiencing terrifying and inexplicable events. Overwhelmed by the escalating horrors and the pressures of fame, Sky is forced to face her dark past and regain control of her life before it spirals out of control. So this film was directed by Parker Finn and it stars Naomi Scott, Dylan Galula, Rosemary DeWitt and Lucas Gage. Now, I haven't seen Smile since it first came out back in 2022, but I did enjoy it, although its derivative nature and predictability kept me from loving it. Still, I liked it enough that I was curious enough to check out Smile 2 opening weekend, and while these movies still definitely aren't my favourite, Smile 2, like the first, is solid as fuck, and in my opinion, it's an improvement over the first film. And one of the best parts about this sequel is Naomi Scott and her performance as an overworked, overwhelmed pop star who is also a recovering addict. It is a tough role to play because she's not the most likable person at all. In fact, she's pretty unlikable. There are parts in this film where you'll struggle to root for her, and she's difficult to root for, but she plays her so well that as you learn more about her, and as you see the way people treat her as more of an icon than as a person, you really start to get attached and endeared to her character. And again, it's tough to play because she is rude. She's not a very nice person. She's so good at giving you both sides of that coin. And I think that this is one of the best horror performances of the year. In a year full of great horror performances, Naomi Scott just absolutely kills it here. And another thing about it too is the intensity of it. She's never once settled or relaxed in this film. She's just constantly on edge, whether it be due to the actual horror situation that's going on or just the pressures of fame and the way people just are more interested in their appearance than how she is feeling as a person and the way that she might be responding to the pressures of fame. And it's just, she has so much to do and she kicks it out of the park. And going along with that, having a pop star as the lead of a Smile film is a great idea. Because she's always in the public eye and she's always got people staring at her and she never has a moment alone, there's always that threat of a smiley demon being around. Sometimes you even have parts where there's, for example, there's this little girl that's just fixated by her that just walks up to her at a signing. And it's tense because you're like, is this girl gonna pull some shit or is she just completely just fixated on her? Is just such a big fan. Like, it creates some really good tense scenarios out of having a pop star as a lead. I think it was a great idea. This film never fails to cook up an uncomfortable atmosphere and it never fails to deliver on the scares. And that's one of the best parts about these films, is that they are actually tense, and the jump scares, while there are a lot of them, they all feel earned and not just like a cheap way out, because the tension building up to them is so good that the release is properly effective and it's not just a reflex action. I'm not going to say that there's anything in this film as good as the car scene from the original film. That is an all-timer, at least of this decade, I would say. One of the best jump scares of the decade. Doesn't mean that this film doesn't have its fair share of great moments too. As I mentioned at the start of this video, I haven't seen the original Smile since it came out, so I might be a little bit hazy on some of the finer details about it, but as far as I can remember, I think Smile 2 has a lot more going on beneath the surface than the first film. What this film really focuses on is the pressures and expectations of fame, the constant attention that you would receive, and watching this film is an overwhelming experience because you're never given a second to breathe. It's just a mile a minute, basically. And you think about people like Taylor Swift, whose entire life, basically, is in the public eye. She'd never get a sense of privacy or a feeling that she can just relax. And that's what this film captures so well, is the fact that Sky Riley never has a moment to just relax. And because she can never really relax, she also has to constantly put on a positive front, even when things aren't positive, going as far as her manager, who is also her mother, is constantly telling her, come on, keep smiling, like, you know, make sure you look all right, because that's what's most important. You're not the most important part, your appearance is. That was really impactful and effective, and obviously quite funny considering the premise of the film, but it's really cleverly worked into the story. She has a problem with a stalker at one stage, and she's paranoid that she has stalkers, so when she sees people following her around smiling, that's just another bit of fuel to the fire. And on top of that, she's also a recovering addict who is struggling with her sobriety, and the events of this film, you could interpret them as her relapsing hard. It's the combination of the pressure that she's under and her struggles to stay sober that lead to the deterioration of her mental state, which is what the film is about. The horror is just conveying all those problems that she has just piling up on her. And lastly, casting Jack Nicholson's son as one of the guys that is following her around smiling in one scene was genius, because Jack Nicholson has a very sinister smile, and his son, Ray Nicholson, I believe is his name, he has the same evil smile. So that was really effective, clever bit of casting there. But unfortunately, when I mentioned that this film is overwhelming in a positive way, it's also exhausting in a rather negative way. And the reason for that is that it just seems like every second scene is taking place inside of Sky's head. You have no clue what is actually real and what isn't. And I understand that for some people, that is the appeal of this film. The fact that you are experiencing this woman's descent into madness, you're not just watching her, you're experiencing it with her. You're not sure what's real, what's not. You're constantly kept on edge because you're constantly being thrown around as to what's actually happening and what's not. That is what might make these films so engaging for people that love them more than I do. The problem I have is that I feel like I'm being kept at arm's length from what's going on, because I'm constantly being jerked around, and basically every 5 minutes it's like, yep, that past 5 minutes, that was all a dream basically. I gave up trying to put things together, and it's got to the point in this film. They actually did it better in the first Smile film, but it got to a point where I'm just like, I have no fucking clue what's going on. I have no clue if this is real, if that happened, if this is happening, how she got from here to here, how these characters are sometimes... It was just a mindfuck in a way that kind of made me disassociate from the film rather than get more engaged, because, as I said, I just felt like I was being kept at arm's length from it. Another big problem that I had with this film is that the ending is so predictable. Now, don't get me wrong. The way this film wraps up is cool as fuck. It's just the most predictable ending to any film that I've ever seen, and that's not an exaggeration. I guessed the ending as soon as this film was announced to be following a pop star that was afflicted with the smile curse. I read the synopsis and I was like, oh, it's following a pop star. That could be cool. I wonder if it's going to end like this. Oh, of course it is. That's the only way it's going to end. And as I said, it's cool. But it's so predictable, and the problem with that is the fact that every other time in the film that Sky is in danger, it doesn't have the maximum amount of tension that it could, because you know that she's going to escape that situation to lead up to the grand finale. Like, she's got to get from point A to point B somehow, because point B is obligatory. So the rest of the film kind of suffers because you know where things are going to go in the end. And finally, there was a kind of subplot that kind of just felt like filler. I'm just going to say text messages. That's all I'm going to say. Every time that came up, it was basically just like commercial break time. I was just like, it was just a bit of fat. I don't really know why it needed to be there. I'm sure they could have found a way to get rid of that. So overall, Smile 2 is a rock solid film with a fantastic lead performance, plenty of great scares, and a lot to read about beneath the surface. The repetitive mindfuck parts got really exhausting, and the predictability held it back for me. But overall, it is a really good film. Smile 2 is worth a watch. Thanks for watching my review on Smile 2. I'm going to be getting back to my Nightmare on Elm Street reviews, and we got Freddy's Dead next. I'll see you all later. Bye.